Welcome to Career Compass, mapping your future. Visit yourcareerrevolution.com today to get your free guide on the benefits of working with a career ownership coach. What on earth is battered career syndrome? Well, I think you may know it if you have it. You may recognize it, but you may be tone deaf to it, right? So think about it this way. If you have a career and it's not getting you to where you want to go, both personally and professionally, could it be that you may be suffering from battered career syndrome? Look, sometimes the trajectory of our careers can leave us feeling, honestly, a little bit battered and bruised. If you've got an inkling that you think, gosh, there has to be a better way to make a living, a better way to find purpose, a better way to progress in my career, what I want you to do is go to careercompassshow.com and find our quiz called Our Career Help Assessment. So take your career help assessment and let's see where that takes you. But with me today, I'm so excited. As always, Dr. Mike, I am so thrilled that you are my co host because Dr. Mike is an organizational psychologist and he's here today to help us really unpack this phenomenon.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think fundamentally, and this is so ironic. I know I went through it too, but just kind of the way we're wired, right, as emotional human creatures, a lot of the times we find greater comfort in staying in a place of pain and discomfort rather than facing the unknown perceived potential pain of change, a career change, stepping out on our own, getting a promotion, going to a different company, right? Even moving like to a different area to take a new job. So many times we think it's easier to stay in that place of pain and discomfort. But really, the flip side of that coin is, what we'll talk about here in a little bit is just the psychological, then the mental, then the physical effects that it does take on a person. So I think that's fundamentally it is number one, we just find it more comfortable and easier, right, to stay there. But number two, and this is why I really, really like what you all do. And I'm so glad we're talking about this because it truly is a lack of awareness and education as to what this truly is, what it looks like, and more importantly, what you can do about it to get out of it, to change, to grow. So I think that's the twofold part to it is really just finding more comfort and staying where you are, hunkering down for the storm. And then the second piece is, again, just really not knowing what it is and why you're feeling the way you do specifically.
Yeah. I mean, it seems almost like it reminds me of the definition of insanity, right? Doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. Gosh, I feel stuck. There must be a better way. Just know that you are not alone. So, next, I want to talk about what is the definition of a comfort zone. When you look it up, you'll see things like, it's a state in which you operate from something that feels familiar, something that feels safe. You're very accustomed to the routines and you understand that your behaviors or what your surroundings are pretty predictable. And typically, when you're in your comfort zone, you feel in control of your environment and you feel like you've been able to minimize risk and uncertainty. And it may feel good, and I'll have Doc give his perspective here in a second, but the challenge is it an illusion or is it real? And that is what we really want to figure out today. Because when I think about the corporate comfort zone, one of the things that we've realized is a lot is changing yet again. There was this interesting statistic. Let me quickly look it up. It was by Statista, and they indicated that by 2027, I mean, gosh, that's what, like 2 years away from now, that over half of the American workforce will be 1099 employees. So if you have a corporate career right now, what does that mean for your future? So, Doc, why don't you go ahead and comment on the corporate comfort zone?
Yeah, well, again, a very important topic, and one that I personally went through. And I think we've talked about that a little bit before. But, the cliche saying that you hear all the time, about the comfort zone is And I just don't I really experience this a lot, but that false sense of security that we
Mhm.
get, right? I mean, you do feel secure, and I think, like you said, safe, in control, got it together, can manage it. But that really is a false sense of security up to a certain point. And when you hit that corporate comfort zone, right, and start to swim in it for a while, the more comfortable you get. However, it can sneak up on you real quick and put you in that place of discomfort when things don't start going your way.
I mean, as I think about, what may keep somebody, let's say, in a corporate environment, right? Many times it's something bigger than themselves, right? The opportunity to become part of a mission, um, to have a community or a tribe, and you guys are working on, something bigger than you. So there are lots of opportunities to be part of something like that. The challenge is, are you working on your own dream or are you working on somebody else's dreams? And, many times when I hear some of these stories and I hear the reasons why people stay in corporate America, I don't hear the mission. I don't hear the purpose, the greater good, that we're working on. What I'll hear is, well, the steady paycheck. What I'll hear is, benefits. What I'll hear is, well, that is the only thing I know how to do. And I believe those are the wrong reasons to stay in a corporate job. What if, what if you educated yourself and just looked at what else is out there? You introduced the concept of ill weight, right? Instead of thinking a job is what I need or a career in corporate America is what I need, what if you looked at it around your goals, needs, and expectations? So, what are your income goals, needs, and expectations in the short term? What is the lifestyle that you would like to live? What type of flexibility would you like to have? Right? Many people feel like they have these golden handcuffs on them, and here at our ripe old age, we still need to ask permission whether we can take a day off or not, whether we can go to the dentist or not, right? So, really, do we have the autonomy and the flexibility to create our own life, or do we need to succumb to somebody else's? And then longer term, how much opportunity do you have in your current situation to create long-term wealth for you and your family? How much control do you have over whether you are able to build equity in the situation that you're in? And if the answer is no to any of those, right? My income potential is limited or stifled. I don't have the flexibility in my lifestyle, and I don't have a lot of opportunity to create wealth and equity, then maybe your corporate career is no longer serving you the way it's supposed to.
That which is most personal is most universal, right? So, for those out there listening that might feel like no one understands me, am I the only one going through this? Will I be okay? Just remember, right? Those things that are most personal are also most universal, right? And it's our stories that give us power. So, like for me, as an example, one of the things that I started, I think I briefly mentioned this, but initially staying stuck in that place of having the job, right? And feeling like I arrived, like you said, right? Had the title, had the check, had the office, had people that counted on me and needed me, so I couldn't abandon them, right? Even though the irony in that is I wasn't really doing the job that I used to do because it changed, right? So, but I was convincing myself that people still needed me. And so, through all of that battered career syndrome, without even really knowing that's what it was at the time, I initially started to feel really lost, confused, and not fulfilled, right? That caused me to question what my purpose really was, right? What was I truly working for? Like all that kind of stuff, I just kind of suppressed instead of expressed, right? Because I was pushing it down and burying it while I was fighting this other thing. But what that started to do then is that psychological and mental anguish and worry and anxiety started then to creep over into the physical, right? So I started to isolate. So then I wasn't going to the gym anymore, wasn't exercising. And because of that, I was feeling more tired, lack of energy, wasn't eating right. So that little snowflake, that little small snowball that started at the beginning started to roll downhill and got bigger and bigger and bigger, right? And then the impact, the internal impact started to bleed over into the external life, right? And that's the danger of the slippery slope. And it's at times it can be so slow that it builds up without us even realize how much it's building up.
I think the reason people retreat back to their comfort zone is because as soon as you leave your comfort zone, you enter the fear zone, right? Because it's something new, it's different. You feel like a duck out of water. You're just not familiar with it. But if you can press through that, I think you spoke about it a moment ago, Doc, turning that fear into opportunity, saying, "This is great. I'm learning something new. No wonder I'm uncomfortable," right? When you can change your mindset and see the opportunity in that, one of the things that will happen is you'll enter the learning zone. So instead of being frustrated or scared, you'll become curious. And when you're curious, you're starting to take control. And what happens as you press through the different zones, before you know it, you'll actually enter the opportunity zone. You'll recognize opportunities that you couldn't see for yourself before. But that cannot happen if you're just staying in your current comfort zone, or if you're on autopilot and you're just going through the motions and really not giving it any thought. So, as we wrap up here, what final thoughts do you have for us today, Doc?
Well, the final thought would be, something that you just said with those little feelings, right? Those little things that nag us, we can tell that there's something inside that's either not right, not aligned, something's missing. We really have two options with those feelings. We can either suppress them, right? Or we can express those, right? The two polar opposites. Suppressing causes disease, expressing causes at ease, right? Discomfort with both, but that's the ultimate end, right? So if you suppress them, squash them, ignore them, it's going to cause other issues that aren't so bueno. But if you express it, explore, step into, embrace, the key word that I hear most from everyone is liberating. You start to feel liberated when you actually step into that and just, again, see, right? Check it out. Give yourself enough grace, believe in yourself and bet on yourself enough to at least step into that exploration stage.
If you enjoyed today's episode, please go to yourcareerrevolution.com and request your free guide to the benefits of working with a career ownership coach. Thank you so much for listening.